Hello there, crafty friends. I hope you are doing well today. This is Martinette coming to you from Happy Notes Crafts. I'll be joined by 4 other card makers today. You please do go to our playlist so that you can see everyone's videos for the October Roll of the Die YouTube Hop. I want to give a special thanks to Kiran Bailey for hosting this monthly event. It's nice to see some different ideas, and I personally love the challenge of trying to make something according to the die that she rolls for each month. And so this month we are going to be making card projects that feature sponging, a fun fold, in colors. We're going to use embellishments, and it will be masculine. So hopefully, as I was reading off those sort of criteria for the die this month, I hope you were able to spot how I met the challenge. So let me show you exactly what I'm using to meet the challenge. First of all, for sponging, I am going to be using these masks. We have these new masks that are a part of the September to December catalog, and in the pack you get masks, several of them, several different types, but you get at least 3 that are going to make or build, or I'm sorry, 4 that will build a really beautiful sunflower. We have 1 that makes leaves, and looks like even acorns are included, and then 1 for snowflakes. So lots of different uses. Oh, I'm sorry. And then the one that I don't know what this is called, what this pattern is called, but it reminds me of a sweater. So definitely sweater weather. And depending on you, wherever you are, rather, it might be sweater weather this weekend. So I'm in North Carolina, and the temperatures drop dramatically this weekend. I personally love it, but I'm going to be using the sweater pattern, if you will, the mask for the sweater for my sponging. And for my in colors, I am using boho blue. And if I have to be honest with you, this is my favorite out of all the new in colors that were released this year. And also this pebble, oh, I'm blanking on the name of it. Let's see if I can flip to it. In my annual catalog, glad I had it handy, Pebbled Path is what it's called. It's a nice gray, a nice deep gray. And I'm also using embellishments. So I'm using the 2023-25 in color jute trim, and you can actually feel a huge difference between the jute trim versus the typical cording that we have, or what do we call it, baker's twine. There's definitely a thicker woolly type texture to this that I love. It makes for easy tying when you're making a knot or a ribbon, and I just like it. It makes me again think of thick sweaters. For some folks, I know they might be itchy, but I like this particular trim. I'm using also some embellishments. These are the adhesive backed solid gems, and this particular pack has lemon lolly, I believe pecan pie, and definitely the boho blue. I chose the boho blue. Let's see if I could find those. I thought I had marked those for you too. What I like about this particular challenge this month is that it reminds you of our embellishments. I don't want us to forget our embellishments. So let's see, our embellishments and ribbon start on page 139. So I want to bring your attention to that section in our catalog, because I don't know about you, but for me, sometimes it's easy to forget to add some embellishments. So I'm using this number 5 adhesive backed solid gems, and it coordinates with the Fresh as a Daisy suite, but I'm obviously not using Fresh as a Daisy today. This is actually copper clay, boho blue, and lemon lolly, and I'm using the boho blue because we are featuring in colors. So for my stamp set, I'm going to be using Brewed for You, which is on page 92 of your annual catalog here. This is not a new set. This is a set that has carried over, and I absolutely love it for the dudes that I like to make cards for in my life. It's a really nice one. It's not just for dudes, but it's definitely my go-to when I'm making a more masculine card, especially for my guys who love beer or cider, an ale, if you will. So I'm going to be using that today, but I am sneaking in the pecan pie blends, the light and the dark, for my jar here, because most of us know that ales and ciders typically are stored in a dark jar. I played around with some light pumpkin pie and light daffodil delight to fill my glass, but I think I'm going to use another stamp to fill that in, because there is a filler stamp. You can see here that fills in the beer glass as well as the beer mug and the wine glass. So I don't have to color that in. And I think on my second version, I'm not going to color it in. I'm just going to use this stamp, solid stamp, to fill it in. And then, as I said, Pebbled Path as my coordinating in color, if that makes sense. So this one looks like I made it a birthday card, which I really do like. All right, let me go ahead and get started on this card. So did I mention, let's see, I did mention that we're doing Funfold. Yes, I mentioned that I have to make a list so I don't forget what to tell you, because my mind goes a million miles a minute sometimes when I'm doing this. So it's quite possible that I'll forget to tell you something. But this is a Funfold. And I wanted to keep it rather simple because it is a masculine theme. Something just simple, not a whole lot of moving parts, but it still packs a punch and it's definitely fun. So the dimensions, and I want to mention that I got my dimensions from Lisa Curcio. So I appreciate Lisa for sharing that. She is so generous with her ideas. So I want to call that out. But my base is the boho blue, and it measures 5.5 by 6.25. Now, 6.25 is a little bit hard to read on your paper trimmer. So I want to bring your attention to how I pull that out. So when you go to your paper trimmer, I'm also embarrassed to say that even as an elementary school teacher, I best learned my different fractions and how to read a ruler after I became an avid card maker. I am admitting that now. So when you're looking at the ruler on the trimmer, let me see if I can zoom in here. When we're looking, these are in 16ths. Each line is a 16th of an inch. At the top of the ruler, we have the centimeters, the metric system. But these larger ruler numbers down here, these are our inches. And from inch to inch, we have 16 counts, right? So when I'm looking at this, every fourth of an inch, if you will, is marked by a slightly longer line than the smaller ones, right? When we get to a half, notice that it's even longer. And then we get to any let's see, equivalent fraction here in fourths, they're going to be longer than the lines are going to be longer than the tinier lines between the numbers, right? So, okay, having said that, a little bit of a measuring lesson there. Having said that, here we are at 6 inches. Now, you'll notice that the smaller dimensions, or lines I should say, between 6 inches and 7 inches just so happen to correspond with where this arm kind of folds out and folds in. So it's a little bit tricky. I had to use my flashlight on my phone when I was cutting this, pre-cutting this, to make sure I cut at the right long line here. So this is 6 inches. We have this first longer line, which is right here in the grayed out area of my trimmer. That's 6 1/4. Okay, so that's 6 1/4 inches. So that's where I needed to cut the length of my cardstock. So just be careful with that. Make sure that you're looking carefully because it's a bit harder to see. And once you find it, if you want to put a little dot or something there to help you and save your eyes the next time, you can, okay? Just wanted to show you that because I had to stop and look at that myself. All right, moving right along. So this is my 5.5 by 6.25 inches, and I scored at 2 inches. Okay, I think I have that turned around. So I scored at 2 inches. Then I have a piece of Whisper White that measures 5.25 by 8 inches, and I scored it at 4. I'm gonna zoom back out so that you can see. So I scored it at 4, okay? So 5.25 inches by 8 inches, scored at 4. Then I have 2 pieces of Whisper White that measure 2.5 by 3, and 2 pieces of Pebble Path that measure 2 3/4 by 3 1/4, okay? So I'm gonna set those aside for a minute and show you my sponging technique that I'm gonna use. So this is going to be sort of the fun part, or part of the fun part, if you will, making sort of a partial cover for the card front there. And before I fold it, I do want to, actually, yeah, let's do it this way because I like to fold on this side of it. But it doesn't matter because I'm actually going to sponge both sides of this little flap. And so notice how I'm using my grid paper to line everything up. I love this grid paper because I don't have to worry about finding a straight edge for some things, and I want to make sure everything is lining up okay. I want to use some less tacky tape, if you will, to make sure that my mask, this little sweater pattern, I want to make sure that won't move. So I am going to place this carefully along my grid paper and making sure that my edge of my cardstock is gonna make sure I get some pattern on that too. So that's why I'm being careful, because I noticed on my first card, I missed just a little bit at the top. And it doesn't matter. If you're not picky about it, it's okay. But I'm using, again, the grid lines to help me make sure that I'm lining up my my mask as well, but I'm also using my score line over here to just make sure everything is lining up from left to right as well. So I'm using my top score line to make sure that I'm not going too far uphill or too far downhill. I'm using this bottom score line, bottom grid line to make sure the bottom is right. Then I'm gonna put my tape down on my surface so that I'm okay there. You know what I just noticed? I'm going to do exactly what I told you not to do at the top. You see this little margin right here? That means when I'm sponging, this small sliver of a piece is not going to get color. It's not going to get the pattern, and I want to make sure it covers it. So I need to move this over a little bit to the left. So you want to make sure you're looking at the pattern where it lands and not just the mask itself, because it has a little bit of a border around it. So glad I caught that. It's a good chance to show you exactly what I'm talking about here. So let me realign this with my grid paper lines. Think I got it, and now I'm ready. So a little bit of the pattern might go across, and that's fine. I want to make sure that I don't go too far off here. Sometimes I get a little out of hand here with my sponge brush. I have to stop and pay a little bit closer attention, but you don't want to get color way far out of the mask. We want to concentrate on where the pattern is. That's what I'm trying to say. All right, let's go ahead and get going here. So my boho blue, it's actually a rather juicy ink pad here, but I'm going to go ahead and just apply color with my sponge brush. Again, being careful that I'm not too far off the mask so that I don't get color all the way on the left side of this card here. You can play around with shading in terms of lighter and darker. I'm just applying color, and I want to see what I get, to be honest. I'm not really paying too much attention about shading, but just know that is a feature that you can play around with with these masks. I have to tell you, I haven't really played with masks as much until this catalog, until I saw these, or this set of masks. I like that you get more than one pattern in a pack, so that's pretty cool as well. I think I'm going to get some cool shading out of this. The outer edges, or at least this edge, looks like it's going to be a little bit lighter. Let's see what I get. I'm going to just take this up carefully. I like that. Now, one of the things I noticed on my sample is when I open it up, it's blank. So I'm going to go ahead and mask the inside as well. All right. I'm going to do the same thing to the inside because it is still visible when my recipient opens this card. So I just want to be sure that I give some love to that inside. And because it's not a very big space, it shouldn't be that big of a deal to do it. So let's make sure that I have my pattern available on the parts that are going to be peeking out, and using my grid lines to make sure I'm not too far up or downhill in either direction. And I think that's good. Let's see what we get. Sometimes I have the best of intentions, but the reality might be a little different than what I intended. So let's go ahead and get this down. Okay. Just using circular motions with my brush. And let's see what we got. I like that a lot better than my sample. Okay, let's put that away. And now let's finish the card. All right, let's go ahead and get our stamping done. And then we can kind of put everything together. I'm gonna stamp my jug of ale and pecan pie on one of the Whisper White pieces I cut. And on the same, I'm gonna stamp Oh Ale Yes in the Pebble Path. It's up here in the corner where it fits. Okay. And then on the second one, second Whisper White, I'm going to stamp my beer glass. My beer glass needs to be cleaned because it's coming off of the block here. Just put that in the middle. I think I use Pebble Path for that. And then I'm gonna use Daffodil Delight to fill it in with this little solid stamp to fill it in. I've had this set for so long and I've used it so much that I might need to just get some soapy dishwater, warm water rather, to clean them. Whenever your stamps start to get wonky like that and won't stay on the block, might be time for a good cleaning. I think that's what's up with mine. All right, I am going to put a little bit of bubbles on the rim. You know what, I'm gonna stamp that again. I don't like the way I did that with my crushed curry. I'll keep saying Daffodil Delight. It's actually crushed curry that I used. So let me try that again. Okay. Let's see. Pebble Path again for my glass. And this one I'm going to put just in the middle here. All right. And now I'll try the glass filler again. And this time I hope I can line it up a little bit better. I'll pay more attention, better attention to that. Let's see what we get. That was a lot better. Okay. So moving right along. That's the kind of detail that I would hyper focus on and not get anything done because I stamp it over and over again. You gotta know when to fold them, folks. All right. I have on the opposite side my little bubbles. And I'm gonna line that up right on the corner of the glass. It's kind of spilling out the glass. Okay. And I think, oh, I have one more thing to stamp. Let's stamp the sentiment, if I can find it on my messy desk here. I'll start off, oh, here it is, with the best of intentions. Everything is organized, and then as I get in the middle of my crafting, it gets a little wild in here. I am going to go back in and stamp my sentiment with Pebble Path, just to kind of keep that color running throughout, that in color running throughout. Turn this over. Those to have a smudge. Maybe I can cover that smudge with something. We'll see. Okay, so put this in the middle. This will be the last part that they open. Notice there's some opening parts on this fun fold. A couple of different things to kind of open. That's what makes it fun fold, right? All right, I think at this point we can go ahead and start putting some things together. I'm gonna color in that jug before I glue it down, but let's go ahead and glue down the white insert. Now, anytime I'm using layers or gluing down layers, I like to use my liquid glue because I have a few seconds of forgiveness to shift things around, move it around before it sticks. It's a very strong glue, but I love to use it with my layers, okay? So, let's see, making sure I don't cover up my score line there so it can move and open. There we go. Yeah, I got to do something with that. I smudged that. Maybe I can use a lifter or something to get rid of it, but I'm not going to worry about it right now. Okay. Now let's go ahead and color this in. Again, I'm using Pecan Pie blends, and usually when I'm using blends, I always tell you to use the Memento ink. I'm not worried too much about shading this time, so it doesn't matter if I use the regular ink pad with this one. All right, I'm not going to be working the ink image too much, so it shouldn't fade it. Usually when we color with our blends, we want to make sure that our line art is stamped in Memento. As you can see, I'm doing just fine. I like this tone on tone for my jug. Every time I see this image or use this image from the stamp set, I think about the Darlings from the Andy Griffith Show. Now, I might be revealing a lot about where I am and where I grew up, but I grew up watching the Andy Griffith Show. My dad loved the Andy Griffith Show. And it actually still comes on in the evenings, here at least, on, I think it's TV Land, maybe. But anyway, there's this notorious family of the Darlings. And not only did they use or drink the cider in the jugs, they would actually use the jug as an instrument when they would play. So There's way more than you ever wanted to know, I'm sure, but every time I use this set, I think about them. All right, let's go ahead and glue this one onto our Pebble Path layer. Okay. And I think I put this one on the outside flap, that little 2-inch flap, I think it is. And for that reason, I am going to use dimensionals. I am not going to use dimensionals all over it. Be careful, because we don't want to close it shut, close the flap shut. We just want a little lift here for when we put it on the flap. Okay. All right. So I'm going to line that up on this outside flap, just so. I'm making sure my dimensionals aren't showing. They are not. They're just fine. And I'm going to put a little bit of boho blue outline in my beer bubbles. I'm not going to color it in. I'm just kind of doing a little shading here for emphasis. It's probably not necessary, but I like it. And then we can go ahead and glue this to the other layer of Pebble Path. Okay. Now, when you're ready to glue this down, if you noticed in my sample, it was pretty much aligned really well to the front image. So I want to make sure I have that same alignment. This is going to be glued, however, to the front Whisper White flap. So I'm going to put glue on the back of it, but I'm just going to align it with this front image that I've already adhered with the dimensionals, because I want to make sure they line up. I don't want it way out to the right. Then I just opened it up, and there we go. I didn't do too bad. It's parted a little bit. Let's see if I can move it just a hair more. Just a little bit more. I don't know why it moved on me. Okay, let's see what happens. Use my bone folder to re-stick it. So I had a few seconds of forgiveness there. Okay, not bad. Not too bad. It keeps moving on me. There's a little bit peeking out. I don't guess that's too bad. I'm gonna leave it, I'm gonna leave well enough alone. I'm not gonna keep trying to remove it because it's gonna tear. All right, my goal, and I did it perfectly here, was to line them up. For some reason, it keeps moving on me. So maybe as I was trying to line it up, I didn't do as well as I thought. Okay, I'm gonna leave it alone because I will again destroy it in my attempt to fix it. Okay, the last thing I need to do here is to put on my twine, my jute twine in boho blue. And I believe I cut this twine to 20 inches. So I'm just getting enough length here to be able to tie just a little bow. Because it was wrapped around a spool already, it's very curly. Pull a little bit more just to give myself a little bit to work with. Sometimes I waste because I need to cut it longer in order for me to be able to handle it, to be able to tie. And so I might end up cutting off more than I'm going to use, just so that I can have something to work with. And that's just the price I have to pay, right? That's not too bad. And yeah, you can use bows on masculine cards. That's the point I wanted to make. I think the tone on tone is really pretty. And honestly, we all know, those of us who love Stampin' Up! Products, this is our favorite part of the products. And that's the coordination of everything. That is literally what gets our attention, huh? So I love that jute and the way it coordinates with the boho blue. All right, so I'm putting my embellishments on, and I'm going to use a couple of them for bubbles coming from our ale jug. Just open it up, okay? And that's it, y'all. That's it. I hope you enjoyed this fun fold. It's like a double fun fold, if you will. On my, the one that I demonstrated for you, I'm glad I made this decision to do the sponging in the inside as well. I like that a lot better. But just a reminder, our elements for the roll of the die this time were in color. So I used boho blue, pebble path. Masculine theme, so I chose to use the Brood for You stamp set, and I made it an actual birthday card this time. We used embellishments, so I used the adhesive back solid gems and the jute in color trim, again in boho blue. And let's see, did I get all the elements? Oh, and the fact that it's a fun fold, okay? All right, oh, and sponging, of course, sponging. So I hope you enjoyed it. Please do be sure to look at the my other crafters, if you will. Watch their videos and leave us comments and feedback on each of our YouTube pages. We would love it if you would follow us. We'll be coming to you each month with the Roll of the Die challenge hosted by Karan, and we'd love to have you watch out for these challenges as well as our other video posts and lives. So hit that notification button on each of our sites so that you don't miss out, and we appreciate you watching.